So I've gotten some heat lately on the internet from some spring experts that my photos are fake. And they're not all wrong. And today I'm here to show you why they aren't wrong. But they aren't quite right either. So I'm going to show you how to turn this photo into this photo with just a few simple edits. So first things first, we're going to go to Lightroom and we're going to open up the image. And the very first thing that I like to do is to go here to the color, the white balance, and kind of target like a white object, the whitest object in the picture. And what that does is it adjusts everything to kind of balance the white in the image. As you can see, it looks like it needs a little bit of saturation and color added back into this photo, so I'm going to increase the saturation. Next thing I'm going to do is increase my exposure. I'm going to overcompensate that in order to bring up the clarity and dehaze. These really bring in the details of the image. Not too much detail. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is bring in the crop. I typically like to do 4:5 for Instagram photos. Okay. Center in the subject. And then from here, I'm going to increase a few different areas using masking. Bring some light into some darkness to direct the eye towards the subject. So I'm going to darken this front part, slightly bring up the saturation, just add a little more color. Then I'm going to increase the exposure here and slightly increase the temperature. Okay, I'm going to bring down the highlights there. And I'm going to just bring the highlights down completely. That seems to add a bit more reflection to the top of the image up here, which is nice. I'm going to continue adding masking. Okay, I want to brush this in. I always find the brush, if you make it bigger, doesn't make it so obvious when you're darkening things in. Just decrease it slightly. Like I said, this is to draw more of the light towards the subject as the center of attention. I also find that it does seem to add a little more detail when you darken in the shadowy areas. I don't want to do too much. That might have been too much there. Okay. That looks good. Then I'm going to add a little bit, or bring down the exposure a little bit on the subject. Kind of on the opposite side of where the sun is reflecting. This creates a nice contrast. The underbelly of the tree makes it pop a little more. Kind of directs where the sun's light is. You might also be able to notice it's fairly noisy in this image, so I'm going to bring that down. And that just smoothens out the subject and the image. Increase these slightly. Okay. So, this is the part that is fake, that my critics are correct about. Lightroom does have this AI remove tool, and I'm just going to go in and add or remove all of these little particles that were in the water. This was stirred up when the subject got onto the log, and the spring isn't pretty frequently visited, so it doesn't get stirred up often, and when it does, it just goes everywhere. So I'm just going to skip through this, save you some time. Okay, now that the unsightly blobs have been removed, we're going to do one last thing and add color back to the subject. And to do this, I just use the subject selection tool, subtract what I don't want with the brush. Really just want the subject. All right, now that we have our subject selected, I'm just going to increase the temperature, decrease the saturation. Actually, maybe I'll bring out. Let me bring this temperature down slightly. I'm going to actually increase the saturation. No, decrease saturation, increase exposure. Decrease exposure. Yeah, that looks better. And then I'm just going to add some final touch-ups. These were the areas that were missed by the tool. Okay. And that's pretty close. Pretty close. Might play around a little bit more with the contrast and some other elements, but all right, one other thing that's really important, and it makes this top part of the image really pop out, is adding back the reflection. So to do that, I'm going to go to linear gradient, drag the tool down, increase dehaze, and increase clarity quite a bit. And then I'm going to decrease the saturation, bring out that green. And that is it. What do you think? Is it AI or is it real? Let me know in the comments.